Persona fans want nothing more than the announcement of Persona 6. But since we didn't get any of that, we'll settle for the global announcement of Persona 5X. Well, apparently we can't have that either. Persona 5 The Phantom X is really taking its time to release outside Asia. Actually, even its server in Japan hasn't fully released yet following its closed beta. You would think that given its popularity, Persona 5X would have a simultaneous worldwide release instead of a slow regional showcase. Granted that this game was meant to cater to mobile players, especially the Gacha community, which are big in East Asian countries like China and South Korea. But would it not be better if Persona 5 The Phantom X come to global sooner rather than later? Well, obviously, but why is it taking too long for P5X to release globally? One of the main reasons is that they are testing the market demand for the Persona IP. SEGA, ATLUS, and Perfect World selected these regions to gauge whether or not people would spend gacha money on Persona characters and its urban fantasy setting. This allows developers to assess the game's success and gather player feedback before committing to a broader release, since keeping an online game running is quite expensive, more so for gacha games that consume astronomical amounts of time and resources. Take Hoyoverse for example, which updates their games every 40 days. Their additional content per patch includes new characters, locations, stories, weapons, enemies, and minigames among others. Think of it as them creating a story DLC in a span of less than 2 months. Not to mention what is needed to market these updates. From showing how amazing this character is, enticing the players to pull for them, what awaits them in the story patch, and how fun the upcoming events are, and of course most especially, how many pulls it will give them. So was Persona 5X truly successful in these regions? Yes, but there's a problem. Persona 5X did launch with amazing numbers, debuting with a revenue of $12.1 million, seizing the 10th spot among the gacha market in Sensor Tower's revenue report for April 2024. However, in the following month, P5X went down 22 ranks and earned $3.55 million worldwide. That is such a steep decrease, but again, it's nothing to worry about, since other gacha games tend to see a decline in revenue after its initial release. Even Hoyo's ZZZ that earned almost $100 million upon its release also went down to $31.5 million the following month. Now, it might seem low, but it's not a performance that would spell EOS per P5X. And while Persona IP is globally known, that doesn't mean that it can compete with Hoyo Games' numbers. Considering the fact that more popular series like Naruto and Dragon Ball, their gacha games can't also make those figures. Apparently, only the husbandos can. But it is concerning that such a popular IP is only doing this much. Granted, it is not new for existing IPs turned to gacha to go offline before reaching their anniversary. One major reason why these known IP gachas fail is because they are poorly made and was intended to be a cash grab in the first place. But looking at how amazing P5X plays, Black Wings Game Studio really did their best to translate the Persona system into the gacha space. So it, being a soulless cash grab, won't be the reason for its end. However, another reason why a lot of existing IP gachas fail is because they are region locked, which is the exact state of Persona 5X right now. Bearing in mind, China is the best region when it comes to funding gacha games, but a global release tends to ignite the title, and it's not unheard of for gacha games to find financial success outside the whale region. Hence why Persona 5 The Phantom X needs to come to global sooner than later. But before that though, if you want to see ATLUS announce a global version of P5X, then hit that like button and join Otaku to Find for more Persona content. Persona 5 The Phantom X needs to release globally. Not just to increase the revenue, just look at that December earnings. P5X is only 11 ranks above Tower of Fantasy, who's seeing the end of service. But among others, a global release for P5X can surely fill the void for a lot of fans who are eagerly waiting for Persona 6. So for the meantime, being able to play P5X is a good way to keep the fans engaged in the Persona franchise. Of course, P5X releasing globally won't stop the flood of jokes about SEGA ATLUS milking Persona 5. It is a wise business decision to keep the fans engaged with your product. And with P5X being an online game that can be accessed virtually by anyone with a mobile phone once it releases globally, then it will be a great way to further market the brand, especially for people who haven't played a Persona title. They can finally get a taste on how the game feels, which is mostly dating and fighting world-ending deities. Now, while the game is a Persona 5 spin-off, it does have its own unique gameplay, and some of P5X mechanics can be adapted to Persona 6 if done right. And since this is an online game that receives regular updates, Blackwing Studios are bound to add more gameplay mechanics that suits the series, like some of their side games, be it the rhythm game or being able to bond more with the social link members. But the most exciting mechanic that they have is the Persona Duo system. Granted, I don't think mainline Persona games would adopt this, since it makes the S-Link members who are not Persona users become playable by, well, giving them a persona through Wonders DMC Special Cognition. And the great thing about this being an online game is that players can freely voice their opinion. Fans' feedback about P5X's gameplay can help SEGA ATLUS gauge as to what they have to implement to their future Persona titles. Do players enjoy this type of gameplay mechanic? Then let's add this. Is this section too annoying? Then let's redesign it. In that way, we may be able to avoid dungeons like Okumura's. It's basically a goldmine of their fans' interest and game behavior. So if the players can have a go of these mechanics globally, then it can reshape the game to be more enjoyable for everyone. Of course, doing all of this can also induce fatigue for the Persona brand, especially if fans feel like P5X is an overextended attempt to capitalize on Persona 5 success, which is actually what's happening given that globally fans can't access the game yet, so most of us are left with our own imagination as to what really is their intent with P5X. And SEGA ATLUS wouldn't want that kind of perception in the dawn of the arrival of Persona 6, hence why P5X should come sooner rather than later. Another thing is that a global release can help P5X in the mobile market. SEGA ATLUS would not want to release Persona 6 in the wake of P5X's failure in the gacha landscape, since that is very damaging to the brand's reputation and marketability. As of now, the Persona brand is among the best-selling JRPGs, not to mention that its titles are all critically acclaimed. SEGA reported that the Persona franchise has sold 23.5 million copies, and Persona 5 contributed 10 million units in that number. So P5X failing is not a good way to follow up that historical feat. Thankfully, a global release can help its performance in the gacha landscape, as the gacha game can tap into new and larger audiences and leveraging on Persona's global popularity. Of course, Western audiences can be more critical of gacha games, since many are known to take advantage of players' fear of missing out and gambling tendencies. Thankfully, P5X is actually on a friendlier side, being generous enough to give pools for the characters without spending. They even have chests for pools. Now, the most concerning problem is the gate is slowly closing for the best release dates, for them to really maximize on everything. More so with a successful launch of Persona 3 Reload as well as Metaphor ReFantazio. The more they have localization delays, the more that its market return would diminish. Not to mention that delaying the global release further can leave an impression that international fans are seen as second priority, which could harm the goodwill that SEGA ATLUS have cultivated. Add to that, historically speaking, there aren't any good things that happen to online games that have a huge gap among regions, since these games tend to suffer more from the likes of story spoilers being posted onto social media, rapid updates per global catch-up tend to cause massive fatigues among players, and even progression that causes late arriving players frustration, unbalanced community engagement since players have a huge disparity on the stories, characters, and events. Ultimately, the delayed content pacing leads to inconsistent experiences across regions, further alienating players. So a timely global release for Persona 5 The Phantom X would capitalize on the franchise's massive popularity, engage a worldwide audience, and ensure that the game remains competitive. And lastly, it would look absolutely great for SEGA ATLUS' winning streak. Instead of being another one of those, why is that game taking too long? Which coincidentally is happening to one of RGG Studios' beloved series. Where is Judgment 3? Well, if you're curious about that, then check this video out. Join Otaka Define for more Persona content. This is Math, and stay awesome, my dudes.